Hey, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. This is Tuesday, January the 15th, and this will be our chart lesson for the day. The weather is still terrible here. It's raining, and we're not getting snow or anything, but we're getting the ice, which is worse. So we're closing up early again today. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up a quick chart lesson and call it a day today, and hope the weather's going to get better soon. So we'll just have to see, but it's kind of nasty here. But anyway, let's talk about the what we saw today. There weren't a lot of entries, but we had a really nice trend, pretty much a trend upwards from the get-go. And the market opened right in this area. No reason to be entering in here. Actually, I probably should have drawn one other trade on here. There's a possible short right there. It's really aggressive, but I'm going to go ahead and mark it anyway. Because we were in this trading range, you know what happens when we break out. Prices always snap back. But we got this doji first and then another doji, so it makes it even more risky to enter short right there, especially that close to being back to the EMA. If you took that, it worked, and you should have drawn once you saw this, you definitely should have drawn this line here and then just drug it down, and that would have alerted you to where to look for the reversal down here, and that's exactly where we got it, right off those lows right there. And it was fairly interesting. We didn't really get a good setup here, but and this is really bearish coming down here. There's a little bit of overlap, so I wouldn't call it, it's not extremely bearish, but there's no green bars in there, so it's all red and all downhill till you get right here. So it was a little risky going long on the first entry. You really were better off to wait on a second entry, which came here, and but then again, going long here, you were getting really close back to the highs. But the reason I like this trade is because of this failed. Look how bearish that bar is there. It was really tempted to go short, and I had to fight it myself. But we had this overnight. We had a break of the trend line during the overnight, and we actually had the reversal going before we ever got started. And so when we had this double bottom and we tested it again, and then this failed second entry short with this, I mean, you can see that. Let me just back out just to make sure you can see that. That's a very bearish bar right there, the big red one. And that's really tempting, and I was almost tempted to go long right there. I mean, to go short right there. I'm sorry, but I held off. I just didn't, we should have been, I'm looking for longs now. We've already had the trend line break and the move to a new low, and we've been trending up since the open. So it was a little tricky. If you got tricked there, you definitely should have thought about reversing. But when this reversed, you had this big bullish bar right here. You couldn't ignore it. And with a trap, there's a good chance you're going to go on up. And by this time, you're thinking, you can't see this price action up here. You're just looking at that right there. But you can see that channel, it's amazing when you can draw the line off the highs first and drop it down, and it turns to the tick right there. And you can see that's just the same, it's just a copy of that line drug down. And when you can get it to look like that, that's pretty telling. So that led me to believe we were in a channel, and we're coming off the low side. We hadn't got to the high side yet. So that was another reason I didn't really like going short there. There is a double top. And that's a really bearish bar, but all that did was trap people. So if you got trapped, you definitely should have exited when this stuff kind of hung around here and didn't go anywhere. And you might have even considered reversing. But I went long right here. And I got a little concerned about that when, prices didn't take off. But this is like a little breakout pullback long. So really, if you missed it here, I should have marked it there. There's another chance to go long there. But with all that overlap, that's pretty tricky too. So you just got to be real careful. But because of that because of the short trap, I liked it to the long side. It worked out for a scalp. They came right back and got the runners and, ran it a few ticks lower. And then look how we bounced right off of that trend line again. You want to go along right there, and there's really two legs down right there. It's a little harder to see, but you want to go along right there. And this one took off. This time your runners survived by a single tick. And so if you hung on, you were able to ride this out. If not, you could have added on right here another bounce right off the trend line. It's a breakout pullback long. I mean, this trend line's real clear and holding really well. And again, you hold once you get in here or here, you hold until you get to this upper trend channel. And so Xing right in here is about as good as it gets. And you get out within a tick of the top, a tick or two of the high. And you really have to put your if you're you got to exit with a limit order, so you really almost have to get that a little bit in front of the line, because if you don't, prices don't always tick through, and if you put your stop right, your limit order right there on the line, it may not tick through, and it may touch it a few times and then turn down and you don't get out. So somebody actually asked me about that this morning, and I'm assuming this is what brought it up, either this trade or this trade. And so that's why, always put it, and sometimes you might want to put it a couple of ticks, because sometimes like here it doesn't even get there. That's rare, but usually if it doesn't get there, it's still going higher. They're just coming back to take out stops and things like that. So keep that in mind. And generally the best place to exit is going to be up here. So, somewhere where it touches up here. And it was really tempting not to go short right here, because you had these overlapping bars and these two matching highs right here at the trend channel, and you're away from the EMA. We haven't touched the EMA since way back here. There's leg one, and then you got your pullback to the EMA or the trend line, and then there's leg two. And so you got a perfect two-leg measured move. And notice after that, then you got your trend line break. And that's a clue that might be coming because of the two measured legs. And now we've moved to a new high, and it looks like we're not quite going to get there. Maybe we might come back and get another leg, make a correction here and get another leg, or it may be over and it may turn down. So, but it's 2:30 now, so it's really too late in the day to be trying to trade. But anyway, it was really tempting not to drop a limit order there, and it would have worked. But you see, you would have had to, if you put it there, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you would have scalped out of that. So you'd have been out before it came back and made a retest. And but that's why it's really risky, because you never know if it doesn't get 3 or 4 ticks and then reverse and make one more push, and that's common for that to happen. So that's why it's really risky. You got to really know what you're doing to be taking this, and it's a counter trend trade, and we've had no break of the trend line, and so it's just a really risky trade. And for that reason, I think people are better off just to skip that trade and wait for it to come back down here and get another chance to go long up here. It looked like you were going to get a chance to go long right here. Never triggered, so we came on down. And then you got this really bullish reversal type bar here. You could have gone long there, but generally once you get a trend line break and you've got that bearish bar, you're better off to wait on a second entry. So I made the circle bigger, so you could have entered either place. This is more aggressive, and really you got to enter the second entry. You got the same entry point, so you didn't lose anything. A lot of times this entry will not be quite as good as the first entry, and it's one of the if you give up, if you try to take on less risk, a lot of times you get a not quite as good an entry. So there's gives and takes to both reasons. And but either way, your runner was still good on both of them. You got to enter at the same place. You just had to ride this out if you entered on the first entry. And that's why it's usually better to wait for a second entry, although sometimes you don't get a second entry. So another reason why sometimes you have to consider the first entry. So it depends on how aggressive you want to be. And I'll be honest with you, I would rather miss a nice move like this than to enter right here and get trapped in this thing, go and make another leg down like this, and you have a losing trade. So that's what sometimes happens, and so that's why it's always better to wait on that second entry, because now you got a little double bottom here, and you got a second entry off the low, and it's a higher low right here than it was here. So lots of good reasons to take that second entry. And it was a little hard to take that one because it didn't quite close on the high, but that could just as easy close on the high as it did the low, and you may have a little better setup there. And, you know, a lot of times I'll look at somebody else's chart and they wouldn't even had a good setup here and they had a better one here. And so it really depends on what your chart looks like. Using tick charts, I get that question all the time. Why doesn't my tick chart look like yours? Well, even if you're using the same data provider and you're using NT and you're getting your data from the same broker, your pattern should look the same, but your bars may not. And that's just the nature of tick charts. They always have some slight differences. If I was to refresh my chart right here, it would look different. So I'm going to start trying to mention that from time to time because a lot of people get confused on that. But anyway, that was the final entry. But the good thing was your runners were safe, and you could still be long here and still riding this trade out. And so it's, you know, weren't a lot of entries today, but the ones that were there were really good. This is a really good trend. We've really been trending since a little after 7 o'clock this morning, and you can see that we had a break of that. If you drew your trend off the first two swings, we had a break of it, a move to a new low, and this is a reversal pattern. That's what you want to look for, a reversal pattern, which is usually a double bottom with a trap, or just a regular double bottom and then higher highs and higher lows, and that's a reversal pattern. Okay, sorry, I had a slight interruption there. But anyway, I don't even remember where we were at. I'm sorry. But I think we covered all the trades. Pretty good trading day, a nice trend. And looks like we're heading to the, we're going to touch this trend channel line again. It's too late to be entering any more trades. But anyway, hopefully the weather's going to clear up here and we can get back to something more normal. Because it's really been affecting my ability to trade and so forth, and having to get out of here early and that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up today. Hope you had a good trading day, and if not, a better one tomorrow, and we'll see you next time. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com.